Steeler Nation, we are back for another great episode on the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I am Jay York Football. Alongside of me, Mic'd Up Sports One. And I know it's not football related, but rest in peace to the Cobra. You could show – it's one of my favorite shirts of yours. I know I gave you a few, but yeah, just
and the boys are popping right now. The Pirates are hot. I know it's not Steelers talk, like you said. 6 in a row for the Bucks. You know, people are going crazy. Pirates only 13 games out of first place, so turning the corner.
And before you know it, I think there is Steelers football end of July, so preseason is right around the corner, and just really excited to get started. And we have a great guest on today.
Yeah, first game ended of July, Hall of Fame game, very last day. I don't know if we've ever had football in July.
Yeah, that's what I said. That I seen that on Twitter, and I'm like, wow.
I could be wrong, but it's incredible. It's this month, and then we'll have Steeler preseason games, obviously in August. So by that time, the Pirates will be 87 games out of first place, and all focus, of course, in Pittsburgh will be on the Steelers. But all focus today is, of course, on some analytics. We're going to talk draft a little bit, college football expert, all-around NFL expert. We're excited to bring him in. Jimmy, go ahead and run it first.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco, Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
I mentioned it off the top. This guy's an analyst and contributor for Pro Football Focus, co-host of the PFF College Football Show as well. You can find him on X at PFF or Dalton. It is our guy, Dalton Wasserman. Dalton, what's going on?
Not much. Fantastic. A great offseason so far. But I tell you, we got to pivot away from the Pirates talk a little bit. I'm actually a Met fan, and I was at the first two games of last weekend's series where you guys beat us 30-4. We're running ice cold right now. So I'm good on the Pirates. If we're not expanding any more into the Pirates or the Mets, I'll be a lot better with that. Let's keep it to the football for me.
I tell you what, you guys had probably, 40% of the crowd, I would say. I watched most of those games. I know a lot of Mets fans traveled. I'll get off the topic, but yes, that was probably the highlight of the Pirates season. You guys will be fine. You'll turn it around.
Bobby Bonilla Day, though, so there was that.
Was it actually? I didn't even realize that.
A tradition as old as time, it feels like now, yeah.
Tradition unlike any other. Well, we will not bring that up again. But we do want to talk ball, of course. I mean, another guy who came from New York, I'm not sure if you've heard of him, Aaron Rodgers, has made some headwaves in the Burgh, as you can imagine. Probably the story of the offseason, at least over the course of the last few months. So I want to dig deep a little bit with you about his last season, in terms of metrics. Talk a little bit about how he looked, what Steelers fans should expect.
Yeah, I think he looked okay for stretches, right? And I think the big thing you get is he's still efficient underneath, especially, and a master of reading defenses because he's been playing, right? He's been in the NFL since 2005, and he's been starting since 2008. So he can still read defenses. He's still got a good enough arm. He's got the quick release. But the two big things to me he struggled with last year, and you can tell he's getting a little bit older, is the downfield accuracy, deeper downfield, and then a lack of mobility. I think those two things kind of are in contrast to what you had in Russell Wilson or even Justin Fields last year, when Wilson was our highest graded deep passer in the league, actually, all those go balls he connected with George Pickens on. And Wilson's more mobile than Rodgers is at this point in his career. So I think the premium things are going to be whoever can run routes underneath and get open on those underneath routes and create yards after the catch, which is part of the reason they got Jonnu Smith in that trade for the Dolphins. And then how the pass protection is going to hold up, because Rodgers at this point is more stationary in the pocket than he used to be.
Upgrade over Russell Wilson, in your opinion?
I actually, to be honest, it's a different style, but I think it's about even. I think Russ played. He got a lot of flack for the way the last 5 games went last year, but I really think that was the way the offense was as a whole. They scored 17 or fewer in the last 5 games. I actually think it breaks about even, but the idea is going to be that maybe Rodgers is more efficient just working to the sticks as opposed to being so reliant on the deep ball, and maybe your offense is a little less high variance than it was with Wilson last year.
Joe Rose, he's a former Dolphins tight end. I think he caught Dan Marino's first touchdown pass. He was on on Pittsburgh radio this week, and he said that Jonnu Smith is the best pass-catching tight end in the NFL. He didn't say overall tight end in terms of, obviously blocking and all the other important things that they're doing. Is that insane? And, tell us what you saw of him last season and how much he could bring to the Steelers.
It's a little insane when you consider there's still guys like Travis Kelce and George Kittle, Trey McBride's emerging out in Arizona, Brock Bowers with the record-setting rookie year. I can't call him the best pass catcher in the NFL with those elite names in front of him, but definitely had his best season last year. And it was a great fit in Miami with as many opportunities as there are in that offense to create yards after the catch. And that's what, for the third time under Arthur Smith, he's going to be looking to do in Pittsburgh, right? And I think he does play a really nice complementary role when you look at Pat Freiermuth as a more traditional, old-school, inline tight end who can get up the seams, and then you can get creative with Jonnu in the screen game with some underneath RPO-type stuff where he's always been able to succeed with the ball in his hands, right, making plays after the catch. And again, the emphasis with Rodgers coming in instead of Wilson, that's not something that the Steelers did last year with Wilson, emphasized yards after catch. They wanted to throw the ball deep downfield. With Rodgers in now, except when he's throwing downfield to Metcalf, with all the other guys in this offense, including Jonnu, they're going to want to work after the catch. And Jonnu, that's really where his ideal position is, right on the field, the ideal alignments and putting him in places where he can win after the catch. I think he can succeed. He's not going to get the volume he did in Miami last year, so the surface level numbers won't be the same, but he can still be efficient at what he does best.
I guess staying on that subject and that huge blockbuster that broke this week, what were just your general thoughts? Does Jalen Ramsey have anything left in the tank, and how did you guys view Minkah last year?
Yeah, he does have plenty left in the tank, I think. And when you talk about, look, there's been a lot of people down on Ramsey and certainly rightfully down on the Dolphins secondary as a whole last year. I thought they were kind of demoralized as the season went on and things were going wrong for them. But he was still our 11th highest graded corner in the league last year, even with all of the deficiencies around him in that secondary. So I think the big thing for me with Ramsey is the ability. Look, with as bad as the Steelers corners were last year, for us, it was the third lowest graded group of corners in the league. So anything's better than within the group they had last year. You got Darius Slay, you have Ramsey, and I kind of envision him the more I've thought about this when you think about how Trent McDuffie plays both inside and outside. Devin Witherspoon in Seattle, a little bit of half and half inside outside, right? Marlon Humphrey's done it for Baltimore as well, a division rival. I think Ramsey can do that. On the outside, if you feel like he's a better starter in your base defense than Joey Porter, obviously Porter's got talent, but he's struggled, especially with penalties. Then you put Ramsey and Slay out there as the starters. You want to move him inside. He showed with the Rams more so than the Dolphins that he can be really good in the slot too, and he's great in run defense. So I think not just the talent, even though he's going into year 10, but the versatility that he can have. I know Mike Tomlin's already talked about him playing multiple roles. That's something that's going to help this entire secondary out a lot.
Yeah. So let's switch to college a little bit. What was your outlook on Roman Wilson? Obviously, I haven't seen much of the field. And what do you think his value can be this year?
He can be a really nice vertical threat if he's healthy. That's what he was at Michigan. He was always the guy who took the top off the defense. On a team that didn't throw a ton, he was the home run hitter. He was the guy, whether it was inside or outside, who had the game-breaking speed, whether it was on deep posts or go routes or even those deep overs getting across the field. He's the guy who you talk about getting vertical. Obviously, they have one vertical receiver already in DK Metcalf, but if Wilson is healthy, it's another guy that helps you take the top off, a second guy to take the top off. Then you start working underneath to the tight ends and Calvin Austin in the run game. It makes, so much of it now is making defenses respect you with those too high looks and make sure, okay, we need to have home run threats out there. Wilson has the ability to be that second home run threat next to Metcalf. He's just got to be healthy.
I mean, we would love to see him back on the field. It's kind of been, not much there. Thoughts on Caleb Johnson? Why do you think he fell to the third round?
I think, honestly, his tape said second round, and the 40 time at the combine let him down a little bit. Was it in the 4? Did he crack 4.6, or maybe it was just below 4.6 at 4.58 or something? But it was the 40 time, I think, and teams not having a whole lot of faith in the top end speed. But I really do think he went to the right fit when you talk about this system in Arthur Smith and this outside zone scheme, as long as they block it up right. Because, last year, the reason he had so much success at Iowa is because they switched their offense. They got a new offensive coordinator. They switched their offense to a similar Shanahan kind of system, and his vision and his one-cut ability really played well in that. He's a powerful runner at 210, 215, who can take those hits and make one cut and get north and south. So maybe the home run speed and the 40 time let him down a little bit as far as the draft, but he went to a really nice fit in Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah, I think it's a nice 1-2 punch too with Jalen. I think that they're going to split carries. I don't think fantasy owners will be happy about that, but I know, Steelers will with the Najee departure. Before I throw it back over to Mike, I think this is a burning question. And before the Aaron Rodgers signing, Steeler fans, and I'm sure you've seen it on X, Twitter, people going nuts. Will Howard, do you really think, a 6th-round guy, do you really think he has a shot to make an impact? I think that his ceiling is possibly a solid backup, which I think is great to have because we know injuries happen. But where do you see his ceiling at for the future quarterback in the NFL?
Definitely as a 6th-round guy, a developmental guy. And I think you're right, a solid backup, especially with his intangibles and everything he went through in college. He's a tough kid. He took a long time to really get better as a passer, and it took that transfer to Ohio State in Chip Kelly now, who's obviously the Raiders offensive coordinator, to work with him. Because at Kansas State, they ran a very run-heavy, I don't want to say gimmicky offense, but it's very college-y where you talk about a lot of option and a lot of quarterback run and things like that. But it wasn't great dropping back, throwing the football, showed significant improvement at Ohio State last year, just dropping back and throwing the football in obvious passing situations, right? So there's more development to be had. I don't think he has elite arm strength. He's got a good enough arm, and he's got good mobility and solid traits all around, but his intangibles will definitely keep him around as a solid backup. And then you see where it goes in the next year or two as far as development, maybe into at least a bridge or a low-end kind of starter, I think.
Yeah, I think it just kind of made me chuckle, and I get it, like Steeler fans, since the departure of Big Ben, now they see how much, me and Mike, really appreciate him because that was the quarterback we watched growing up. But it's just funny because you see like the franchise, Will Howard, he did it at Ohio State, and I'm like, the NFL is a different animal. So I'm glad that you kind of reiterated that, and hopefully our viewers will really appreciate that one. Mike?
Steelers fans acted like we drafted Peyton Manning.
I love the excitement and the optimism, but you got to be real.
Yeah, I think just maybe burned by Kenny Pickett, and too many people watched him on the a lot of people watched him on the national stage, I should say, and thought he should have been first-round pick. But anyway, let's. I just want to move on to the team in general. What needs to go right for them to have a successful season? Maybe what constitutes a successful season, and listen, are they just destined for another 10-7 and getting crushed in the first round of the playoffs type year?
Yeah, it's tough because I look at them and I don't think Rodgers is a significant upgrade over Russell Wilson. I think you break even there. It's a little bit different style, and you just wonder, where is this team made a jump from? Okay, obvious wild card team, solid team that won't break Mike Tomlin's streak of winning seasons, or non-losing seasons, I should say. Where do they get significantly better? Now at corner, they've done that with that's obviously the weakest part of their defense from last year, and their defense is going to be really good like it always is. But offensively, I think the first thing that needs to happen is development from these young offensive linemen, right? Zach Frazier was awesome last year at center, but you're talking about Broderick Jones heading into year 3 when he struggled in the first 2 and now switching back to the left side. Troy Fautanu barely played last year, and now he's switching to the right side where he didn't really play in college. So I think the offensive line is a huge question for me. If they can solidify that and be a solid unit with all those young guys and those 2 guys especially get developing the way they should as first-round picks, you start talking about a different animal on offense. You talk about Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren in the run game. You talk about Aaron Rodgers being protected, which is going to be at such a premium at his age with his lack of mobility. Was kind of streaky last year with the Jets when it came to the pass protection. That's going to be the big thing for me. I'm watching. How does this offense function behind this very, very young offensive line?
I think you hit the absolute nail on the head. For me, the key to the season might be Broderick Jones and how he fares at left tackle. If gets Aaron Rodgers killed, to be, quite blunt. Hey, what do you got coming up? Where can everybody find it? This has been a ton of fun.
We've got a ton of college content coming out on the PFF College Football Show. We're starting our preview sessions with that every Monday on the PFF NFL Show on YouTube. We're on right now, and that's going to expand as we get towards training camp. And right now, as far as on the website, I'm working on something I'm calling the PFF All Single Season Team. So the first We're through 20 years of PFF now. Our first season was 2006, so going into our 20th season. And I just wanted to see, what if I put together a lineup of the best players from a single season standpoint from our grading, and what would a starting 22 look like that for that? So it's been a lot of fun. I've gotten all 32 rosters in. I'm doing some writing for each, and you guys already know as much success as you guys have had in the last 20 years. The Steelers roster is pretty stacked up with good players.
Can't wait to see that. That's awesome.
And some Lev on there, I would imagine. I will not ask Garrett versus Watt. We did enough of that on this podcast. So I promise. No, but that's incredibly exciting. The next time we have you on might have to be as we get into this process, and we're talking Lenore Sellers and Drew Aller and Kate Klubnik and, the crop and Nussmeier and the crop next year that I'm sure the Steelers will be interested in as the draft comes to Pittsburgh. Hey, man, absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. And like I said, we'll do it again around a draft time maybe.
Thanks, Dalton.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, if the Steelers have the type of season that he anticipates and a lot around Pittsburgh anticipate, we'll be talking about draft-eligible quarterbacks about 1 month into the season. And it'll probably turn into the burning topic in Pittsburgh because the draft is in Pittsburgh, and obviously with Rodgers on a 1-year deal, our feelings about Howard not being the guy moving forward.
Yeah.
You can almost pencil in already the Steelers drafting a quarterback in the first round next year and him being the odds-on guy to be the future of the franchise. So a lot of good stuff from Dalton, and I'm with him. If the offensive line doesn't perform, if they don't, I should say overperform, the Steelers are going to kind of be right where they've been, and who knows, maybe Aaron Rodgers could get hurt early on.
Yeah, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Aaron Rodgers signing. Do I still think he has some gas left in the tank? Absolutely. But the biggest thing is it doesn't solve the long-term that we've been dealing with since Big Ben left. We need a franchise quarterback, and I don't think it's on that roster right now. So 2026, draft coming to Pittsburgh. What better time?
It's on your side. I mean, we haven't heard a ton of people saying that Russ is better or was better than Aaron last year.
Yeah, and I was a Russ guy.
It kind of sounded like he felt that way.
Yeah.
Even though he said they're neck and neck, but kind of felt like he was pushing a little bit more towards Russ, and that Russ had a better year last year because he has that moon ball. But we'll see. That's why they play the game, and we're about to play the game soon, so it's going to be exciting.
Well, really exciting stuff as always. Thank you guys. Happy 4th of July, and see you next week. Jimmy, take it away.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.